Welcome, everyone. I just wanted to invite you to our first masterclass. We're privileged to have with us Nicolai Schättgen, who's joining us from Austria, who's worked a lot with startups and scale-ups, helping them expand overseas. And this is our masterclass. So we'll be having a presentation and then an open discussion. So Nicolai, thank you very much for joining us here in Tel Aviv, and hoping we'll be able to have you here live when this is all over. Thank you, and take it away, Nicolai.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ed, and thanks to the entire team. Great pleasure to be here today. And as said, yes, absolutely. Very much looking forward to being back in Tel Aviv. Amazing city, amazing place. For now, unfortunately, we need to take it from Vienna, so we'll all used, of course, to the online. Happy to talk a little bit about B2B sales, because this is what we're doing day in, day out, constantly, every day, and permanently between startups and scale-ups, and startups, scale-ups, and large corporates. So this is our world. So therefore, also scaling in B2B sales. Whatever I prepared today, just to a brief on myself is that I founded MatchMaker Ventures 2015. So I'm doing what I'm doing now for a good 6 years almost. Before that one, I was long in the strategy consultancy field, so advising large corporates, predominantly in the field of innovation, new business, new growth, adjacencies, how to tackle new business opportunities. And then I took that knowledge, which I gained there, one step further in order to actually drive innovation, make innovation really come true. And that's why I came to the topic of MatchMaker Ventures. What I have in the next probably 20 minutes or something, and then please stop me in between if I talk too fast or if you want to have a question. Otherwise, we have some Q&A at the end. I'm completely flexible. Just a couple of topics and of thoughts which I believe are important to set into perspective when we talk about B2B sales, when we talk about B2B sales in the domain of between startups, scale-ups, and large corporates, because this is not the same as if IBM is selling to the Deutsche Telekoms of this world. So a large to a large, that's something fundamentally different than a startup or a scale-up is selling to a large corporate. And we need to put that into perspective, because you always need to know where you're coming from. Just today, funnily, in the morning, I had a call with one of our hopefully soon corporate partners, where we want to match them with one of our portfolio company. We clearly are preferred from the RFP perspective. Everything won by far the best offer, but then it comes down to, hey, but this is a startup. Do we really want to work with them? What are the risk which is involved to that one? How can we mitigate those risks? So it is something different, and let's just want to put a couple of thoughts on that one, because I've been doing this one, as said, for 6 years now, and I think there are some interesting learnings. Some sales basics, just some thoughts I would put into your head, and then just because I believe and I love the topic so much, I just thought, hey, let me put 2 slides on LinkedIn in there. Because if you're not using it yet to the full extent, you're really losing out. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, specifically again in those times. Hope that all makes sense. I keep on going. Otherwise, I guess I'll see some chat and then add to the team. If there is something, please also cut me off. Perfectly fine. Some fundamentals just on setting the scene, startup, scale up, large corporate. Before that one, what we do is we do exactly that. We bring 2 parties together. So we do matchmaking. That means we drive business development and sales for startups, scale ups, technology companies, and we help them to work with the large side together. So we do our core business is doing business development and sales. I said we do that one now for 6 years. We're becoming 6 in a couple of weeks actually, and we have we started with this one, and just a very brief of a cycle to evaluate for yourself. Is that what I'm saying? Is that valuable, not valuable? What we do is we are looking for technology companies. Today we have 13 actually, also from Tel Aviv, portfolio companies who we carefully validate and select. We work with them, we prepare with them on the topic of how does really business development, sales, who are target customers, sales processes, value positions, stakeholders, pricing, always a key topic, discuss about pricing. How do we price? What's the business model? How do we deliver? And then on the other hand of the equation, on the right-hand side, we take our portfolio companies and help them to actually close deals with the corporate side. And that is also our venture. So we invest a lot of time, know-how, and network in order to scale our portfolio company. When we do that successfully, we take a cut of those business. And we do that quite globally by now. So we work in more than 30 geographies already by now, focus on Europe. Europe is our home. And when we talk about B2B, Europe also has its specific challenge because Europe is super fragmented. And in B2B, one of the key things and key learnings probably for me was how different B2B markets are. I am German, I live in Austria, but I also do business in Switzerland. And just those three markets, all German speaking, should be somehow similar, but they are completely different. And then B2B, it's really about understanding the local market specifics. And that's what we're doing with our network to really overcome those challenges. So much on us. We focused, and as I said, in 2015 when we founded, on the topic of collaboration. And why do we did that? Because this is a study which we ourselves did around 1,000 participants, and we asked corporates, how important are startups for you in order to innovate, to drive new business? And what we can see in here is that startups already from a corporate perspective have become a clear partner in the open innovation, in the innovation activity. So it's far beyond what we saw 5 years ago. Startup collaboration was a little bit of lipstick services, and they're saying, hey, yes, we'll do something here. And we set up an accelerator, and now we also wear sneakers, and we put on a shirt, and now we do startup. That has really shifted. Today, when we talk to many corporates, they are very sincere of really wanting to collaborate. And that's, of course, a huge opportunity for all of those startups out there to say, yes, it is not something only to do some fancy marketing story, but to really drive business impact. But when you do that one, it's always key, a second kind of part of, besides B2B being very national, local, regional, it's also important to really understand your counterpart. B2B is always about creating value. It's not about, hey, I sell something and then I get a little bit of a better deal and that's it, I'm out. B2B is for long-term relationships. And in order to set up those long-term relationships, you absolutely need to understand the other partner. And when we asked around 400, this is on the purely the corporate side, 450 corporates who participated, we asked them, what is the key reason speaking against collaborating with a startup? What is holding you back? What are the key concerns in the organization? Why might a board member say, no, we don't sign this contract. This is too mission critical for us. We cannot work here with a startup in this field. And the one part is really about the uncertainties. I don't know if this really works. I don't know if there's really an ROI. So whenever you go as a startup into a discussion with a corporate, it's so important to take that into account. And even if it's so clear for yourself, what is the value you create? Why is that going to work? As you are the startup and you're the small one in the equation, you need to put 5 times more effort into that one and to make it completely crystal clear for the other partner. Because otherwise, they are scared of you, and you need to understand that one. It's not purely logical. Logical for corporate is, I have this much revenues to defend. Okay, so the corporate per se mentality is, I have something to defend. I have thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, millions of customers. I have billions of revenues. So whenever I need to be very mindful of risk. Something, of course, when you're a startup, you have everything to win because basically, you're just barely at the surface. You may be surviving, but for you, the sky is the limit. So your risk appetite, of course, and risk-taking ability is a completely different. And that is so important when you think about approaching a corporate and understanding the other partner, that they are coming just from a very different perspective. So whenever you talk about B2B sales in that regard, you need to make sure that you address those fears, address those needs, because otherwise you're getting into this part. Because we also asked the corporates, how long does it usually take in order to set up a collaboration with the startup? And you can already see here, there's the very optimistic ones. Not sure how true that really is, that there's collaborations which are being set up in less than 3 months. What we see is clearly rather the 12 months, might be even some taking longer. So you're in it, and that's maybe the third one already. B2B sales is a long business. Not only the lasting relationship afterwards are long, but also the time to establish, and we'll talk about some numbers later on, it really takes a long part. So you again need to take that into consideration when you talk about collaboration, when you talk about, I want to scale, I want to do B2B sales, it is a long cycle. so much of setting the topic. The fundamentals, everything looks good. So the topic of collaboration is there. Corporates clearly went over, I want to do business with startups. I don't only want to have it for marketing. So we're putting it into the right perspective. And therefore, just a few more sales basics, because I know that time is really 25 minutes is tough, but I'll manage. Sales basics. A couple of things which you just, again, and I said most of them already. Longer sales cycles. So it's not only it's already long, but it's even getting longer. So sales is becoming a more and more longer term game. You are in there and you need to be aware of that one before you commit to anything, that you know, hey, this is going to take long. And you need to ask yourself, do you have the stamina? Specifically, if you want to, of course, work overseas, work abroad, it's even more important. So B2B is becoming just longer. You need to think about really approaching that one, because a cold does not work anymore. Then we'll come back and close the loop afterwards with the LinkedIn part, because LinkedIn is a fantastic tool in order to avoid cold, in order to already make lukewarm introduction, in order to see who has access where. But just pure cold reaching out, without lying, I probably get around 4 to 5 cold LinkedIn contact requests. Out of those, 80% probably just connecting without any reason. 20%, 1 out of 5, gives me some kind of bogus reason with a standard text, which absolutely is not relevant to myself. So I decline, and I'm not even connecting to those people. And this is, of course, something which you just need to be aware of. Cold is not working. B2B sales is a very personal part. That's why you are paying for good salespeople so much money, because they have had to build their relationship, their network over so many years. B2B, number 4 maybe already, B2B is a very personal business, and that's why sales agents are so expensive and are experienced and often have gray hair, because they have built this relationship over many years. And if you think about it, this is the reality of B2B sales today for you guys. When you think about setting up your sales part specifically internationally, it's super complex. It is just a nightmare out there. Of course, you have different markets you could go to. You have in the markets, you have different stakeholders, you have different clients. You could set up, hey, maybe I'll go direct, I go indirect. So you really need to think about that one, and it's really about preparation, understanding that mess, and then being super focused. Because again, as I said before, B2B sales is quite long, so it takes time, and as we also heard, it even gets longer. So it's not even long today. Again, it gets longer. So therefore, be really clear in terms of where you're going and try to do as much preparation as you can. Obviously, we could go into this direction for hours and hours, and I could talk quite a lot about it, but I tried to condense, so to say, my key takeaways already in one slide, so to say, to give you my top key issue, and then some numbers again on that one. What have I learned? One is, again, don't lie to yourself, because it will come out. The process, and you will have so many meetings when you do B2B sales. At some point, if you lie, if you overpromise, if you oversell, you might be having, yes, great first meeting, second meeting, third meeting, even fourth meeting. You might even get to a POC, but at some point, if you completely oversell yourself, it will come out, and you need to be aware of that one. As startups, we generally have the tendency to say nothing, the sky is the limit. We can do whatever you want, but be sharp on that one. Be really honest here to yourself. It's actually much stronger if in a corporate discussion you also be very clear of what are you good at and what are you not good at. Also be clear to yourself, where can you deliver? When we started in 2015, the first deal, believe it or not, we actually closed was in Kuwait. Very odd, very odd. I did a project as a consultant in Kuwait just before, had a good link. We set up a deal. Back then, we worked with startups which were way too early stage. Today, we work with Series A, Series B companies who already have traction. So we also learned a good amount of lessons, what is possible to really set up. But back then we were pre-seed, so this was a 7-people organization, not really approved, and we closed the deal in Kuwait. We were fantastic, enthusiastic. We were flying there, setting this up with an operator in Kuwait. Operator anyway, telecom operator is even more challenging. In the end, of course, we got a little bit of money, but from a pure ROI perspective, how much time we invested, how much time we lost that we could have worked on deals which were closer, deals which were in Austria, in Hungary, in Germany, in Italy. It's not that there's a lack of markets around Austria. So there's a gazillion markets around here. But we were driven by really not being honest to ourselves. So I can just be, kind of ask yourself, and then, don't do that. You will lose so much time. Really be sure about, who are you chasing? What's the specific profile? Can you really deliver against that one? Does it fit into your agenda? Obviously, we're all opportunists and we will take opportunities and we evaluate opportunities. But again, evaluate an opportunity. Don't get blindsided. Corporates, usually the first 2 meetings are always fantastic. And it seems like, oh my God, I got a deal with Deutsche Bank right now because this first meeting was so amazing. In reality, as said, it will take a couple of more meetings. At some point, you will actually realize it's not that easy, and it won't go as smooth as you expected. 2, B2B is just a numbers game. Okay, so you need to know that there's odds. You will lose most of the deals. Most of the people you talk to won't be interested. They will say this is not relevant to me, and I'll have a few numbers on the next slide. So don't be discouraged on that one. You need to have a thick skin, and again, that's what salespeople have. They usually, they bounce back instantly. Okay, this is it. Then go for the relationship. Timing is something which is extremely important in there. And that brings me to the third point, which I really believe it is. Kind of even if a client, a prospect, whatever says at some point this is not the right thing, take it like a champ. Take it like, okay, this is fine. What else can I do for you? So it's, don't try to push sales too much. Yes, you need to be consistent, and if you believe there's something, you got to chase that up. But likewise, as my favorite saying, good things happen to good people. So sales is all about trust. We work because we are trusted people. We work with a network of 100 senior professionals, and they have a lot of trust. We do a thorough work of validating the portfolio companies we work with, so that increases the trust. If we go to a corporate, via a trusted channel, we say, look, we really believe this is the great companies for you because we have validated, and we even benefit from the success, working on trust. That is so incredibly important. So therefore, again, also the first point, don't lie. If you say you can't do something, you increase your trust. So just understand that concept of trust in B2B sales. It's not something which, I give you 10% more discount and then it happened. No, B2B is for long-lasting relationships, and therefore also the trust level is so incredibly important in this game. A few numbers just to undermine what I said before. When you think about it, target, kind of on average, and this is true numbers. I'm sorry, I didn't put the source in here, but this is sales true numbers. 80% are overall not interested. So 1 out of 5 will actually say, hey, this is interesting, let's talk. 4 out of 5 will say, I'm not interested. And potentially they don't say it that harsh, right? They give you a little bit of a apologies, wishy-washy answer. But in the end of the day, they are not interested. So it's also, again, so important to know who you're shooting for, to maybe get that number not to 4, but to increase that number. So the better you target, the better is the opportunity that you have somebody who says yes. I also said it's a long-standing game, right? So it takes a lot of part. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So as I said, you barely close something on the first meeting. It takes persistency. You need to follow up. You need to have that one. And you need to work together on accounts. So it really, it's you need to contact them frequently, be there, have the trusted relationship. The corporates also, they need to have the feeling, hey, I want to talk to you. That's great. You're a fun guy. And that's extremely important in there. In order to make all of that one, and I'm just going to quote now one quote, a quote here, Eisenhower, plans are worthless, but planning is essential. So you will make your plans, and this is to say our sales plan, which we use, and you feel free to use it, or you have the other, there's a gazillion out there. Have a plan. You need to have, of course, your CRM, your pipeline management, whatever you have, but you need to have a solution. You need to have an approach for that one in order to drive it through in a proper manner. Apologies. So you need to understand your clients. You need to think about, how do I reach them? You need to think about the meeting, about how do you really meet? It's something where too many really startups are not really focused on thinking about the meeting, debriefing meeting properly, what went well, what went work. Every client interaction is a learning experience and it's a learning opportunity. We all know Eric Ries, lean startup. The same applies towards sales meetings. So think about it the same part. Test your hypotheses. What is the best material? What is working? What is the best opening? What is working? When do you start with numbers? So always take it as a test, but make sure, again, as a lean startup, and Eric Ries says, you need to make sure that this is measurable. Too often we don't do that consciously. We just think about sales just happen. sales does not just happen. Sales, you got to plan, you got to prepare, you got to improve, you got to get feedback in, you got to improve your materials, improve your approach, improve who you target. Okay, and once you found something you want to penetrate and you want to scale up the organization on that one, super important about, you know, serving the clients. You know, sales doesn't finish. I argue very strongly sales is a continuous work because it's about trust. Once you have sold something, yes, you have your maybe a different team, customer success team, but super important to have this process smooth. When do you involve the customer success team so that afterwards you really drive value? Usually you don't get the value by just signing a contract, you get the value by exploiting then the relationship and penetrating the account, scaling in the account. And if it's corporate, usually they're big and usually start small, but the fewest startups really are managing to scale really an operation or an opportunity part. So really think about also this end part here of your process, because otherwise it will always stay small. Okay, I talked a lot. I think 3 more slides. Just very basic on LinkedIn, because I believe this is for startups really the tool to use. It is amazing what you have. Work on that one. You know, social selling. It is all about, as I said, trust. LinkedIn gives you a great probability to build trust. It's not something which comes from today to tomorrow. Okay, you need to put in work. You need to put in work in order to build relationship, understand people. You know, if you have also kind of your sales team should, you know, I think it's again a great tool is the sales navigator, the LinkedIn sales tool. Don't want to do advertising. I don't get a cut out of that one. Don't worry. But I think it really helps you to understand your client. I said B2B sales is about relationship, understanding the client, thinking how can you create value together. So therefore, it really helps you in that part. And if you think about it, again, here, this is just hammering in the same message, trust. Think about how can you get trust. 51% of all decision makers rank trust as the top factor. You know, it doesn't mean probably the other 49% rank trust as the second most important factor, but for more than half of all people, decision makers, trust is the single most important. It's not value that you create. It's not the price that you have. It's not the traction that you have. It is about, hey, I need to trust that person. I need to have a trust in that person. If I trust the sales guy, I trust the organization itself. So we all, you know, you can broker trust in a way, right? So if you're as a salesperson, if you establish trust, they actually trust you, and you know, you trust your startup, and therefore, you know, you broker trust. So it's a super important concept to understand, and therefore kind of for LinkedIn, just 3 very brief messages, and really can just encourage. There's so many great videos, etc., which you have on how to use it properly. And it's still a shame how many, I'm sorry for the word, but no, I won't say, but how many poor intro emails and LinkedIn messages I receive. You could do so much better. Make sure that you have a proper profile, you know, that you have references in there. Connect to the people. Don't connect just by, you know, hey, you know, you standard text that won't work. Don't have one of those, I'm sorry, stupid tools which just connect you and grow your network without any meaningful out of it one. I don't trust that. I want to trust somebody for B2B sales. So therefore, it takes time. It is something where you really need to invest time and effort. Emerge, become relevant, you know, share content, share news, work on your company page, you know, make it professional, you know, follow the right people. And then next one, really kind of make sure that you also try to transform this links, this connection, this new connection which you have from your network, from your LinkedIn. Try to set up physical calls, you know, hey, let's get together. Video, it's a great time at the moment to do that one. I've done that massively. And with this being said, I am still in my time. Thank you very much. I think we have a few minutes just for questions, but happy to answer if there is anything on from you guys which you want me to touch base on, or which I was too quick on. Okay, I kind of. Is there anything from the audience? I don't know how this works, or if I should just keep talking. I can also have no problem of keeping to talk. If you have, also maybe for those of you who want, feel free to reach out to me if you say, hey, this was interesting, would like to learn more about MatchMaker Ventures, you know, what kind of companies we work with. Also to that one, I'll link you then to our sourcing team. I think there is a questions in the chatter. Okay, das war super. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was a little bit of was a high touch, I think, and a high quality, high intensity, and then put on top to it also something very important. Actually, it's an interesting, maybe that one, kind of, you know, now video and voice and the proper setup, right? I invested into my great headset just to make sure that hopefully you can hear me well, that you have a quiet room, stable internet connection. Also, that's something in those times which I too often see, which is not completely there. So also make sure of those small things, that how you sit, that you don't see just, also something like this. I see this one in video, might also not be the best, or probably also you're not interested into my corpus. So have also those kind of small things just to make sure that they also important in sales, because again, this builds credibility, this builds trust, and as I said, it's all about really making sure that you build up your trust level in those discussions. I guess everybody is either completely confused, completely just asleep, or somebody is still, or you're just consuming that one. I hope it's the latter one. I guess, Ed, if you're there, I am otherwise complete. I am in time. Thank you. I guess I get a few thank you messages. Appreciated that one very much.
Thank you so much, Nicolai.
Happy.
That was really insightful.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to. Happy. And then I wish everybody a great rest of the day. Use the time. Maybe for the next time, also use the time to ask more questions if you have some, because there's a few more master classes I know going around. It's a good time to use that one, get the feedback in. Otherwise, I wish you guys all the best. It was a pleasure, and as Ed said, hopefully soon again in Tel Aviv, one of my favorite places, obviously, and it's a great place to be in. Thank you, everybody.